All right, hope you enjoy that intro music as much as I do. It's a good little 30-second refresher before I get started every time. Let's see, a couple people already in here. That's good. Looking forward to chatting about bracket management with all the directors today. Got some good slides, have some pre-populated events and brackets to look at, and then we'll talk about yeah, managing those brackets and ensuring that the player experience and overall the tournament, the efficiency of that bracket is positive for everybody, including the directors. So we'll start today with a quote. This one is simply just around events and player experience, or the product of your event, and that says experience is the product, organization is the delivery system. And I like that because as directors, when we're organized and we're focused, we're paying attention to the event that we're running, that really provides that positive experience for players, and in turn positive experience back for the director as well. So it's never fun when you have upset players. It actually makes your director experience negative as well. So you can keep the players happy or do your part in that, you can feel good about your own experience. So that's a good one. All right. Topics for today. We're going to go through a quick introduction. We will talk about the baseline bracket types that you would run into when running ACL points events. There's really 4 different bracket types you could be running. We will look at some examples of those brackets. We'll come back and we'll talk about pausing matches and pausing specific match numbers and what that looks like. Okay. We'll talk about how we've color coded some of the matches inside the admin portal. This one is not as familiar to most people, but it's something that's always been there. And then we'll kind of recap at the end, talking about player experience, how pausing matches during bracket play can really have a positive effect on your event efficiency. If you have a limited number of courts and you're running a smaller event, smaller bracket, I can show you how actually pausing some matches would actually save you time and allow you to use less courts for the same bracket. So we'll talk about that as well. And then at the end, of course, we'll do a quick Q&A. If you guys have any questions throughout this, please drop them in the chat. I will look at all of them. I'll address them at the end and try to get some really solid answers where I can. If you watch this on recording and you come up with some questions, just feel free to email me, shoot me a quick message about this and your question, and I'll get some answers. So this one will be a fun one. All right, so for the introduction, here, fittingly, as we're going into Richmond Open this weekend, this photo here is from Richmond's signature event last season. And I just wanted to kind of showcase, when we're talking about bracket management, I could be talking about bracket management from an event this size, right, where we have maybe 600 to 700 players. And I'm also talking about bracket management on the local weeknight as well. So, managing your bracket, pausing games for efficiency, it really affects directors at all levels. Whether you're running a large event this weekend, like Chris Buchanan and Tim and Heather are doing in Richmond, or you're just running a Thursday night blind draw, and maybe you have 8 teams in a small bracket. You can still find ways to manage that bracket a little more efficiently. All right, first one we're going to look at here. I'm going to go out of this. We're going to go to, wait, before I do that, sorry, after my intro, I wanted to go one more slide, sorry. I'm talking about different bracket types that you're going to find when running ACL events. If you're running an ACL points event, there's actually only 4 different bracket sizes that you could be running when we're talking about double elimination brackets, that is, okay? This whole series today is talking about double elimination, and that is mainly because when you have lower um, loser game brackets that are trying to fight their way back, those can take some time, and we'll talk about how to manage those. Now, a single elimination bracket is a lot less um, important to manage the speed of that. Single elimination by nature just kind of keeps up with itself. Double elimination does not. So, four main types. The smallest one being an 8-seeded bracket. This would be something you would have anytime you have between 6 and 8 players, or 6 and 8 teams. Okay, you'd have a small 8-seeded bracket every time. Okay, the next one up would be a 16-seeded bracket. This would be any time that you have either 9 to 16 singles or 9 to 16 teams. Okay, that would put you right into a 16-seeded bracket. We'll look at a couple of those. Then the next one's a 32-seeded bracket. That's going to be anywhere from 17 players to 32, or 17 teams to 32 teams. Okay, so that's starting to get a little bit larger. Generally, your larger weeknight, or starting to get into your larger regional brackets. And then the largest one that you would see is a 64-seeded bracket, and this would be anytime you have 33 players up to 64. So a lot wider range. And I have a couple examples there we'll look at. I have examples of all four of these. We'll run through what that looks like from a bracket management perspective. And if you've ever had an opportunity to maybe work at an ACL Open with some of us, we are looking at these larger brackets a lot and managing those. If you're a state director or regional director, you've probably managed these larger brackets as well. And then some of our local weeknight people are getting into these large brackets. There's also some real importance of managing those smaller brackets as well. All right, jump over to the first one here. I just want to kind of show this is a 64 seeded bracket. Okay. Now, what I want to show here is if you just have a bracket and you let it run free, a bracket of 64, and you don't manage it at all, you just let it play. What generally will happen is you'll have part of that bracket get really far ahead on the top. Okay. This is the top of the bracket. Generally, what would happen, you're going to go all the way to this winners game here, match 119. And on the other side, it's starting to lag behind a little bit. You can see you have one behind. That's not too big of a deal on the top, but the problem really lies is on the bottom. Okay, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. Now we have match 119 here, which is already assigned to court 11. Okay, we want to go down to the loser bracket and see where the loser of match 119 goes on. That's where we're going to find our issue here. Now the loser side of this bracket, the loser of match 119 actually goes all the way right here. Okay, that would mean the loser of that match in a loser bracket game will be waiting for all of these games to play. That's not an efficient way to run a bracket. That's also really not a positive player experience way to run your bracket. So if you're running a large 64 player bracket, it's important that we start looking at pausing some of those games on the top to allow the bottom of the bracket to catch up prior to it becoming an issue. Because what's going to happen here is if this match 119 finishes, right? This game is over. You have a player already in the king seat game, and yet your loser bracket match 119 would be waiting, 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5 games to play, and that's just way too much waiting. That could be an hour. That could be an hour and 20 minutes of wait time just for a loser bracket game. That really does cause some inefficiencies, and it also causes just poor player experience. And that I don't want you to run into that as a director. So what we'll do is look at some ways to mitigate that on this large bracket, and we'll move into the smaller brackets and do the same thing kind of all the way through. So this one, like I said, being the largest, the 64 player bracket, I actually have 41 players populated in this bracket, and I moved them ahead all the way to this game here. All right, let's see. What we're going to do here, let's go back here. All right. So now we're going to look at match numbers to identify. Okay. When we're looking at a large 64 bracket like that, there's certain matches that before I start the bracket, I want to go in and pause those right away. Okay. On that 64 seeded bracket, I'm always looking at match 105, 106, 107, 108. I just pause those before I even start the bracket. Then I go right to 119 and 120. Those are the ones that we're looking at there. where the players are going into the king seat, and then of course the king seat match at 123. So each of these seated brackets has some core match numbers that I always try to identify before I start the bracket. And I pause those early. I'll show you what that looks like on the 64 seated bracket here. Okay, so back to the bracket that I just let run without pausing, right? Like I said, match 119, it shouldn't be playing right now. The lower has way too many games to go, right? Ideally, I think 105 and 106 shouldn't have played either with the bottom that far behind. It's just too much time to wait. You can see the loser of 105 and 106, they go all the way down to right here, okay? Now, that's not as bad of a wait. You might look at that and be like, okay, it's a 3 game wait. It's not too bad. Sure, I agree with that, but I think you could do it 1 game better by just having them wait just a little bit longer by pausing that match. So we'll look at that. Okay, so I have another base 64 bracket here that I have not started yet. This one is my same 41 players. Okay, we haven't played any games yet. This one I just sent a bracket link out to players, right? And no matches have been assigned yet. So this is a wide open. The largest bracket we could run is 64. I actually have 41 players in this bracket. It's large. You can see how large the loser bracket of this is. So like I said, we want to identify some match numbers in the bracket before it even starts. So for this event, what I'm going to do, we go back and look at this here. Just want to remind us in the 64 seeded bracket, we're looking at match 105 to 108, 119, 120, and 123. Okay. So on this, I'm just going to scroll down. I haven't started any games yet. We'll go all the way down through all these matches and just scroll down. Before I start the bracket, if I'm at an ACL Open event, I'm running a large regional or state event, I'm going to scroll all the way down here and I'm just going to pause those right off the top. Okay. I got match 105, match 106, match 107, match 108. I'm going to pause those 4. Okay. Those 4 are these games right here. Okay. These are the games going into the quad finals. So I'm going to pause all 4 of those. Then I want to pause the games prior to the king seat, 119 and 120, and then the king seat itself, 123. So I have a graphic to share with these court numbers you can save, but we'll just continue to talk about them. It's something that I always look to pause. So I paused all those games before I've even started any matches. You can see I got all these matches yet to play. And I just went ahead and paused the 105. Now what we're going to do is just kind of look ahead and run some of these. I set courts 1 through 15. I'm going to go ahead and start my auto assign. Okay, so I'm assigning matches here. Let that run for a moment while those games get assigned. Okay. I have 15 matches assigned. I'm going to go back to the bracket here real quick. I'm going to refresh the bracket and show you just a quick glance what we're getting into prior to that starting. Okay, so I've got matches assigned here. And what I'm going to do is run this through and show you how much better this bracket would look, pausing the 105s and up. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and start entering some scores here for a moment. Kind of running some of these games through. I'm going to run these, let's see, for a little while here. So give me a few minutes to run some matches through. It's going to keep auto assigning these. I'm just going to do this as if players are playing these games. You can just imagine if we're running a bracket this large, sometimes the games are coming in quickly and finishing. Sometimes they're coming in slow. They run at different speeds. I'm just going to keep on, go ahead and entering some scores here till we get to some of those paused matches that I had. Okay. Now, as I'm keeping an eye on the left column over here, the matches that I paused are those 105s. So as I start to see those coming up, those are going to be the ones I'm keeping my eye on. Just entering court as if these players were playing real games. Just going to let some of this fly. Just take me a minute. This is a very large bracket. Like I said, I have 41 singles players in this bracket, so it takes a little time here to get through it. I'll show you how well that looks once we get caught up to a point where those paused matches actually make a difference. quite a bit of games here to run through. And then we'll switch back over. These just keep auto assigning. My courts just keep filling up, which is great. Just know that I keep that running smooth. Of course, every time I complete one of these, that puts another loser bracket game ready to play. It's just auto assigning those for me in real time. Oh, so now you can see match 105. It's up here on the left. It is now ready to play. Had I not paused it, which you can see here, it would be playing right now on the court. And that, in that larger bracket, that's what caused that one to get so far ahead, is that this one auto assigned. Players would be playing this game long before the bottom of that bracket ever got caught up. So I'm just going to keep on rolling through my bracket here. You can see that match 105 is just sitting there paused. Other games are getting assigned around it. Okay. Going, I'm getting close to a point where we're caught up on the bottom. I'll show you what that bracket looks like. And then I'll kind of show you also why I chose to wait this long, and it's not something that is required by any means. Give me a moment here to finish through. 97, 59, and 36, 84. All right, so now we can see those four, or at least three of those games that I paused on the left. We're all ready to go. There's the one I was waiting on there at the bottom. So match 105, 106, 107, 108. They're just chilling over there on the side. Let's go back over to our bracket and see what that's looking like as these games have flowed through, but I left those paused. So we can see that match 105 here is paused. It's available to play. It did not auto assign. Match 106, 107, 108. Okay. Now in the other bracket, we'd already run all the way through match 119. So as we look at that, here, the mouse says rose up on me. Hold on 1 second here where my mouse catches up. Possible it died. Oh boy. Give me 1 second here on my mouse. Got stuck in the roll mode. Refresh this one more time. Okay. That looks like it caught up. Okay, cool. So what we're going to go to the bottom, and what we'll see is that loser of match 119, which hasn't even started yet, is a lot closer, right? Now we're looking at a 3-game wait. I go ahead and run those through real quick. Okay, and you can see that now. What I'm going to do is go ahead and unpause these ones that I paused here. Let those auto assign. Go back to my bracket. So now I've waited for my paused games to catch up. And now I go back to my bracket here, and the player would be a lot more excited to see bracket where their weight on the bottom is not so bad. So those ones have now all assigned. The loser of 105 and 106 is going to be going into a game that's waiting for them. So there's no wait time on the bottom. Now you've had them wait on the top a little bit, but it's best, in my opinion, to split that top weight with the bottom weight. And now that's a very large bracket. Okay, that one's a lot to look at. But what we're going to do is start looking at some of the smaller brackets. You can see how easier it is to manage those pausing of games prior. I'm going to jump over to the 32 base bracket. Okay. This one is a lot smaller. This one actually has like 31 players in it. And this is another one. I just let it fly. Okay, I didn't pause any games. Just let it fly through. You can see that we're already here. This players on court 9 are already looking to go to the king seat. Okay. And you can see that the bottom is still way far behind. This happens a lot on these brackets, especially singles. Some of those games take a long time, and that bottom gets so far behind. Now, this is match 54. Okay. The loser of match 54 goes right here. So when I'm looking at that, I actually don't want 54 playing until these ones get closer. So I would have paused match 54. And what you can remember, if we go back over here, you can see that match 53 and 54 were ones that I would have paused on the 32 seeded bracket. Okay, so that's what a bracket looks like when you don't pause it. Now we're going to go through and look at this base bracket if I were to pause it. Okay, so before looking at that, I wanted to show you a little trick here. What we're doing when I'm running these larger events is in the admin portal. You may have not noticed this. Maybe someone showed you. All loser bracket games in the admin are highlighted in yellow, and all winners bracket games are highlighted in blue. So how perfect, right? If you're looking to pause some winner brackets games later in the bracket, you can easily identify which ones are on the winner side by seeing that they're outlined in blue, and then which ones are loser bracket games because they're outlined in yellow. So now as I jump back over to that event, we can do that there in real time. Okay, this base 32. This is one that I have not started yet. Okay, just got this bracket open. Go over to manage bracket. Before I even start the bracket, you can see I got some games here. And so what I want to do is I'm going to scroll down and find these winner bracket games that are in the middle. Okay, these are blue here. And then, bam, there you go. Match 41 to 44. So I'm going to pause those. Okay, now I've got loser bracket games in between. I'm going to pause match 53 and 54 because as you can see, that is the games going into the king seat. And then I'll pause match 59. That's actually the king seat game itself. Okay, that's this one. So now what I've done is I've paused these matches here to allow the bottom to catch up prior to those playing. That's going to create a much better player experience. So what I'll do is scroll back up to the top of my matches here. I got a lot of them ready to go. Let's just say I had 15 courts here. I'll go ahead and start auto assigning those. These guys run. I'm just going to run through a few of these scores on this 32 bracket, okay, and then show you how much better that one looks when it's caught up. Just kind of running through some of these demo players, giving them a 21-0, just making sure that this bracket keeps moving along. You can already see match 41 now is ready to play, but I have it paused, so it's not auto assigning. What that's doing is that is just naturally allowing the bottom of my bracket to catch up because I have that winner bracket game paused. Now, as I'm running these brackets and I'm watching them, I'm watching the games come in and looking at what players are playing. That's when I start to decide when should I unpause those matches. I don't want to wait too long, right? I don't want to cause players to just sit on the top for no reason, but I also don't want them to sit on the bottom for no reason. So kind of a fine line on when to release those and when not to. So what I'm going to do here is get a couple of these blue ones going. 14. Okay. Match 15. Match 16. Okay. So I've done a lot of those early winter bracket games. I'm going to go back over my bracket here and let you take a look at that and see if we're in a better spot now. Because you can remember I have match 40 and 40, 41 and 42 paused. And now the loser of match 41 and 42 will end up going right here. So to me, this having a 2-game wait is a lot better than them having a 3-game wait. So it's important that I pause those games. As this one on court 22 plays here, or match 22, which is on court 3, I'm going to go ahead and finalize that one real quick so you can see what that looks like on the bracket. Now I think this would be the perfect time to unpause. Okay, got match 41 and 42 are paused. Those players have been waiting not too long, about 1 game's wait so far. Okay, and then on the bottom, they're going to go to right here. And I can see that now match 37, 38, they're only a 1-game wait. So in my opinion, a 1-game wait is not bad. They waited 1 game on the top. They're going to wait 1 game on the bottom and might as well unpause those 40s now and let those run. I don't need to wait until the bottom's fully caught up all the way. That is actually too much time to wait, causes too many delays on the top. But now what I've done is I've evened out the wait. So they waited 1 game extra on top, and they're going to wait 1 game on the bottom instead of waiting 2 to 2.5 games on the bottom all in one stretch. They got 2 half weights there. It's a much better player experience. So what I'll do is just go ahead and unpause the 40s there. Okay, refresh that. Now those have auto assigned, and I'll just continue to kind of run through some of these. Got other match 40, 42, and 43 coming up now because I've hit some more of those tops. So I'm just going to unpause the 40s, right? Match 44. And as you can see, when I go back over to the bracket here, a couple of these lower ones done. 35, 32, 24. Okay, so that's pretty accurate, probably what would have happened in real time. And now going back over to this bracket real quick. What we can see is that those 40s are playing. They're actively playing, right? Because I unpaused them. They're playing on both sides of the bracket. And when the loser comes down, they're going to be ready to play their next game now right away. So in the meantime of them playing, the bottom bracket is now caught up. So just a really efficient way on a base 32 bracket. Just pause those 40s, and it'll just really save that player experience, but also will save you a little wait time at the top and the bottom. Okay. So we looked at the color-coded admin, right? That was kind of something that's not talked about a lot. If it's outlined in yellow, it's a loser bracket game. It's outlined in blue, it's a winner's bracket game. So you can utilize that all the way down to your weeknight blind draws. You can always look at that and say, hey, oh, this match here's blue. Ah, that's a winner's bracket game, right? If you have a live stream court, you want to keep winner's bracket games on live stream. What a better way to do that than just know that they're blue, and you can assign those winner bracket games, keep those on your live stream. All right, so that was good on the 32. Now we'll start getting to some of the smaller ones, okay? This is a 16 bracket where I actually have all 16 players in it. It's not 2 sides to the bracket, it's only one. This is going to be a lot more common for what you see on a weeknight or a smaller regional. The regionals that I run tend to be smaller, and I see a lot of 16 brackets when I'm running my regionals. A lot easier to manage. You don't have as much of a wait time, but one thing that you do want to pay attention to in a 16 bracket is you still want to look at match 22 and 21 here, and you want to look at the king seat game 27. So I will always go in and I'll just pause those 3 matches before I start my bracket. And that's just going to help that bracket run smooth. What you don't want is that king seat game playing while you have these loser bracket games playing here, because man, that's a long wait for that loser of that king seat game. And that person in the king seat could be waiting for an hour and a half to 2 hours in the bottom of that bracket. So pausing match 21 and 22 and match 27 on this base 16 is going to be super important. So I'll go ahead and do that, right? I'm in my base here. Now for this example, I'm only running 6 courts, a little bit smaller. There's actually 8 games that could be playing at once. I only have 6 courts to run, so that's I'm going to show you a little bit there on having that. So scrolling down through, I'm going to go ahead and pause match 21 and 22. And I'll scroll through these loser bracket games, and I'll find the king seat game, and I'll pause that one as well. So I've got those 3 paused. Now I go up, and I go ahead and I'll auto assign my bracket here. Now, because I only have 6 courts available and I'm running a bracket with 16 players, and I actually have games that are available that are winners bracket games that are not assigning. I have not had the courts open yet. You can see I have 6 of the 8 running, right? Now, this is actually really where pausing games can help you when you don't have a lot of courts. So I'm going to run through some of these and see what kind of starts to happen here as some of these games move forward. I'm gonna go back over my bracket here real quick. I've only run through a couple of these just to kind of show you. And you can already probably see um, where some people are getting ahead now. This next one playing, that's okay because I have one on the bottom already playing. So not too far ahead yet. Still doing good, even with only 6 courts. Okay. And some of these winner games, as if some of these had kind of jumped ahead a little bit. Okay, now you can see that match 22 is now available to play. So I'm gonna go back and see what my bracket looks like. I just ran through a few games there. All right, so what we can see now we have in this bracket, we have court 3 over there. They're taking forever to throw, right? Maybe this is a really long match, taking forever. Um, because I have match 22 paused, luckily for us as directors, and luckily for the players involved in match 22, that game's been paused. So they're actually going to have a little bit of a break while other games start to catch up, because the loser of 22 falls to right here. If that game plays right now in real time, and that loser comes to here, now they've got a 3 to a 4 game wait, depending on how long this one takes. And we really want to avoid them waiting 3 to 4 games at all costs. So I'll have them wait 1 game on the top. I'll let 1 game play through while they're on the top, and then I'll unpause it. Now they've waited 1 on the top, and maybe only 2 on the bottom. Or maybe they wait, about 1.5 on the top and 1.5 on the bottom. Really makes that player experience so much better. Like I said, we're doing this at the opens for our largest brackets. I'm doing this on my local weeknights when I run a swap and we go into bracket. I'm going in and pausing those matches. Sometimes players will come up and they'll be like, "Hey, my match on top's ready. Why am I not playing?" And I'll just say, "Hey, it's a good opportunity for me to tell the player, hey, this is actually benefiting you. What I've done is I've paused this. So if you win that match and you go into the king seat, you actually don't have an hour-long wait in the king seat. I've actually had you wait about 15 to 20 minutes now, and 15 to 20 minutes in the king seat. Kind of broke that down to a much shorter wait on both ends. So it's really positive for the players. And you can see, like, if I didn't have that paused, right, that one would auto assign that match 22. Let's say, man, they came in and that player just got beat up real quick, right? Match 22. Go back over to our bracket real quick, refresh this guy. And you can see that now this player 3 is waiting. They're in the king seat match and they're waiting, and they still have a long wait. The loser of that one's way up here. So we just followed our paused games. Keep an eye on our brackets, see where our players are at. It just gives you control as a director. It lets you control the event as a whole. See that I've run through most of these now. Loser bracket games are catching up. Now I'm going to go back over to this bracket and look at the bottom and see if that looks any better, right? So I've got this one's a little bit behind still on the top, but now I come to the bottom and, I've got a run on one side of the bottom and the other one needs to catch up still. And I would have done that. They're just waiting on that top game. So that's a good idea of a base 16 bracket. I think this is probably our most common bracket that's used right now for weeknights, smaller regionals. And this is a really good opportunity for you as a director to pause match 21, 22, and 27 and really just kind of manage that. Let's see, what do we got next here? So we ran that one. We got that guy caught up. Really talked about that. The next one's a really small one. Okay, this is our base 8 bracket. This is where if you only have 6 players to 8 players or 6 teams to 8 teams. Okay, there's really not a lot of pausing you can do here. You can see there's the first round to play, the second, and then all of a sudden you're in the king seat. So for me, depending how many courts you have, there's really not an opportunity for someone to wait too long. But what you don't want is to let this run free and have that king seat game play just a little bit too early. So I do pause match 11 every time I go into a base 8. So over an 8, I'm just going to scroll down to match 11 and just pause that one. That's the only one I don't want to play ahead. So I've got match 11 paused. We'll go ahead and start auto assign here. I only have 3 courts for this particular event right here. And you can see that with the 3 courts, not everyone's playing at once. I do have 1 game waiting, and then I'll have these on the bottom. But 3 courts for an 8 bracket really does work. Get a couple of these winter bracket games here. Okay, what I've done here is I've just run through some of these. I'll refresh this. You can see that top one, it went through pretty quick, right? Those guys are waiting there in match 11 for the king seat game. This one at court 3 is taking a while, but I've already allowed the bottom to start playing, so it's not too long of a wait. Now match 11 will stay paused. So what we'll do is we'll say at court 3, maybe that one got over pretty quick. And then they're on the winner's side, and that winner's one also got over pretty quick, okay? Now I've got king seat game paused, which to me is really important in this base 8. What I don't want is that king seat game to play too early. It's a small bracket, and this is a really time when you don't need your players to wait at all. There's no reason for match 11 to play right now when the bottom's so far behind. The loser goes right here. I would just wait until both of these are done. And as soon as 9 and 10 are playing, I would just unpause 11 right at that time. So if I'm running this bracket, oops, wrong one. If I'm running this bracket, um, say match 5 is good, match 6 is good. Okay, now go to my bracket over here. You can see match 9 and 10 are now active. They're on courts. The loser of 11 only goes to right here, so it's just a 1 game wait. So I'll just go ahead and unpause 11 now. I'll let 11 play at the same time as 9 and 10. That way, by the time all these games are done, they're coming together. You may have a 1 game wait at most, both on the top king seat and on the bottom. So your king seat player won't wait long, and your bottom teams won't wait long. We just split the wait time in half, and it's great for player experience. It's really something that you as a director can do. I'll just unpause it. Okay, I'll let it auto assign itself. Now I have these games all playing at the same time, and if we're lucky and they end at the same time, our bracket is running super smooth. This is the type of event where your players will actually compliment you on how smooth that went. They'll say thank you, appreciate that, didn't have to wait too long. These are the type of brackets that get you a lot of compliments. So let's just say that the bottom 2 games played, right? And now we look here, that one there on 12 is going. And what do you know? The one here on the top ended at the same time. How convenient, right? We go back over to our bracket, we look, and we got someone waiting the king seat, and at most, they have a game and a half wait, at most. And that's a great king seat, right? You don't want your players in the king seat waiting for 3 games. They're going to complain to you, that they got cold, that they got hungry, all these things. You have them wait 1 game to 1.5 games. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. So I think about that, whether I'm running this massive 64 player bracket, right? Huge. I'm looking at these games and I'm seeing where does the loser go? How long do they wait? And I'm doing the same thing when I'm running this little 8 bracket. And so a couple of things, yeah, I just really want to point out there to you guys. I'm gonna jump back over to my slides here. All right, yep, and what we're talking about here again is player experience, right? All of this comes down to, are your players kind of leaving, without any complaints, or are they leaving with complaints? Of course, you can't make everybody happy, but as a director, you get some control in how that bracket's running, and you get the opportunity to take some wait time um, away. Then that's a win for you, and that's a win for your players. So, bracket management, in my opinion, is one of the most important things, one of the most important tools as a director at your event that you can use to help the players feel satisfied without them even knowing what you're doing. Just pausing games, thinking about it, looking at the bottom of the bracket, where are you at? Perfect. If you do get the opportunity to either come help run an open with any of us at the opens, we're going to talk about this every single day, every single bracket. If you're at an open and you're a director, you're not there to help, you want to come hang out at the table, I will gladly talk through this with any director who's there. If you're there as a player and you're hanging out and you want to chat about court assignments, talk about bracket management, pausing, player experience overall, yeah, just please come chat with me. I love to talk about that stuff. All right, and last but not least, questions. All right, Daryl chimed in with a couple here. When the paused matches are coming up, I like to announce them. It gives the players a heads up and they could take a break. Yeah, that's absolutely Daryl. Same thing, when we're at the large events, and some of those games on the top are paused and they're waiting for like a live stream, we can put a court number in there to let that player know, hey, they'll get a text saying they're at like court 1111. That would mean they're up next on live stream, kind of give them an idea. Same thing you're doing is you're kind of announcing that they have like a 1 game break, right? Really good for the player. Again, it just goes back to player experience. The more we can do to help the player feel better, the better our lives will be as directors for sure. All right, next one, another one from Daryl. At what point in the bracket do you announce your first sit and go? That's a great question. Ultimately it depends on how many players, right? If it's a 64 person bracket and it's slam packed, I'll announce that, usually about an hour and a half in of a large bracket because I need about 16 players, right? I need at least 12 players, but I like to run sit and goes with 16 wherever I can, cleaner. There's no buys. So as soon as I start seeing around 16 to 20 players getting knocked out, I'll start announcing those sit and goes. If I'm at a regional, and like I said, my regionals tend to be a little smaller, I'll wait till it gets closer towards like the semifinals or the game before the semis in my smaller bracket, and I'll start running some smaller sit and goes for those players who are just hanging out waiting for doubles to start, or maybe they got knocked out of doubles and they're waiting for singles to start. But sit and goes are a great way to keep your players engaged. I like to run them as cheap as possible at my regionals, like $5 sit and goes, and just keep people playing. They get their local points. They get a chance to keep competing once they've lost their second game in the double elimination. What else we got here? Any other questions come in? I hope that was a little bit helpful. I'm sure I probably sped through it a little quickly, but it's really just identifying those specific court numbers, and you don't have to memorize them. But when you get into a bracket and you just take a look at that bracket, you can kind of see what those court numbers are. For me, of course, I probably have most of these memorized, but if I jump in the 32 seed bracket, I don't need to know exactly 41, 42, 43, 44. But if I look at the bracket, I can see where it's coming. Like, yeah, those quad winner side games before they get to the semis. That's where I want to pause. And just kind of think about that bracket, think about the loser side of that bracket, and you can make some pauses. And not every pause is the same. Sometimes you unpause some of the top earlier. Sometimes you let the top stay paused a little bit longer. Every event's a little bit different, but the point is, as long as you're managing it, it has now become a tool for you as a director to help that player experience. And I think that's the most important part. Utilizing those tools that are out there for us. You may even get some kudos from a player. It says that event went real smooth, and they may not even know that you paused games to help them wait less time. But I assure you, if you don't pause games and their wait time is extreme, you'll definitely hear about it. I know I definitely have heard about it many a times. All right. No other questions coming in. I'll go ahead and probably just leave it there. Again, like I said, if you're watching this on recording and you do have questions, you do want to chat, you can either email me about it, you can shoot me a message, or ideally, just schedule like a one-on-one with me and we can talk about it for 10, 15 minutes. We can go through scenarios. Um, I've got one-on-one times available on my calendar every week through November and December right now. So if you do want to jump on a one-on-one, you want to hang out, you want to chat about this, you want to chat about something else, I encourage you to do it. And yep, there's Daryl, stat fixer guy. I think Daryl, I think I'm going to see you later in the season, right? I've got you, I remember right, on one of those late signatures in the season. So looking forward to that. Getting a chance to hang out with you and work with you. I think that one was Mesa, if I remember right. Could be wrong. Oh, yep. Boom. Yes, sir. Let's go. Go into Mesa in probably the hottest time to go. Um, so that should be a fun experience, right? All right. Thanks, buddy. I'll see all of you later and look forward to the next one.